Most sports fans think they know it all until Brendan Willett puts them on the spot in a man on the street trivia video. Today, the founder of TBR Sports joins the Winded podcast to talk about how a COVID era bracket idea and a moment from the 2019 NFC Championship game helped spark his content journey, why his simple challenges work so well, and how being authentic is the real cheat code for building an audience. We also get into his path from hockey dreams to working with Bleacher Report in Nesson, plus practical advice for creators trying to stand out in a world full of hot takes. The Winded Podcast starts now. Welcome back to the Winded Podcast. Today on the show, I am joined by Brendan Willett, founder of TBR Sports, also does some social media and content work for Nesson and Bleacher Report. Very excited to have him on the show. Brendan, how you doing today?
How's it going? What an intro. What a start. I appreciate you having me, sitting down and talking. Yeah. Psyched to be here.
Of course. Yeah, I'm about 40 interviews in, so I'm getting a little tighter with the intros and less kind of chaos going on in my brain. I kind of narrowed it down to what I want to say.
Yeah.
But also, confirmed guest coming soon. I have to announce this because we are both rocking the Sellico hats. So I will be talking with the boys from Sellico, talking about their story. So keep an eye out for that. But
Nice
today,
little product placement by you and I there. Unintentional.
yeah, and completely unintentional. So yeah, love that. But the best hats around, best designs, have that vintage look. Free ad for Sellico right now. But I want to get into you and your story. But Brendan, you are familiar with the butterfly effect, correct?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, one thing can kind of trigger this whole domino effect of other things. And I want to go back to 2019, the NFC Championship game. Drew Brees drops back to pass, throws it to the sideline. No pass interference is called. And it's just the most absurd thing you've ever seen. How did that moment impact you, Brendan?
Wow, that's a great shout. That way, I think I was actually talking about this yesterday, and kind of reminiscing on how I started TBR. I think in that moment, I was like, I have to start a podcast. I'm so riled up with the NFL officiating that I've got to talk about it. But yeah, that was kind of the birth of TBR Sports and the company. I don't remember the exact, finite details of how it all came to be, which is kind of sad because it wasn't that long ago, but a lot has changed in that period of time. What I do remember was obviously NFC AFC Championship on the same day, back in 2019, 2018 NFL season. You had the Rams Saints game, no pass interference at the end. I think it was like Tommy Lee Lewis or something was the receiver. Um, that name always sticks in my head. Like whenever I think about this story, I'm like, it was Tommy Lee Lewis. That's what I remember. And then obviously the Pats and the Chiefs have like a generational AFC Championship game. And that night I texted my buddy who had been at my house watching the games, and there's a lot of backstory to just our relationship there as well, which we can talk about. But he and I thought the same, had the same interests. We're very similar in a lot of senses, and we're shooting the shit about the game. And I'm like, we got to start a podcast. And I don't even know if I invited him to do it with me or if I just said I'm going to. I would say the hope was probably that I was too afraid to like ask him, and so I was like, "Oh, I'm doing this thing," and just hoped maybe there was some mutual interest, and there was. So I just kind of threw it out there, like, I'm gonna talk about this tomorrow. Like, enough's enough. I gotta kind of put pen to paper, so to speak. And yeah, that was the birth of it. I think the very next day we recorded our first podcast, and yeah, now we're here.
Yeah, I was hoping that was the true story when kind of did some research into you. Found an old article that kind of pinpointed that as the kind of birth of it, or the kind of enough's enough. I have to get out and talk about something. It
Yeah.
is funny how, as sports fans, you have you have all these thoughts and you're emotional and you want to talk about it. And, as you get older, for me, this is my way of talking sports because I'm not like, I'm married now, I'm in my 30s, I work full time. I'm not like sitting at the bar every night talking with my boys about sports. So I'm like, I got to find an outlet that scratches that itch. And that's kind of why I started doing this in the first place. So it is funny how you can you have all these thoughts and you're like, you know what? I don't even care if anybody listens to them. I want to put them out there for anybody that does wanna listen to them.
Right. Yeah. I think that was I think that's the sentiment. Or at least in the beginning. But I just remember for a long time the guy that I started the company with, Carp, Robbie Carpentier, we were hockey teammates. He was a couple years older than me in school, but we were in high school, and he kind of took me under his wing when I was a freshman, made the varsity hockey team. He was a little bit older, a little more experienced, but saw that I was just, shy, quiet, young, smaller than everybody, just not as mature as everybody else. And he took me under his wing, and we became really close friends. And I didn't have my license, so he would drive me everywhere. And everywhere we went, he had 98.5 EEI, whatever it was, and he would like hammer the power button and interject when he wanted to say something. So you'd have Felger, Maz, whoever it was, off on some tangent, and we'd be driving, Hamilton, Mass. We went to Pingree School in South Hamilton, so we'd be going to grab food, whatever, on those kind of back country roads, just flying. And out of nowhere, Carp would just slam the power button, interject with his thoughts. And so in the back of my mind, I'm always like, this kid is made for radio. Like
Mhm.
you could pull a chair up next to Felger, Maz, Toucher, Rich, whoever, and he could hold his own. So I think that was the sentiment too. Was like we would always do that. We would give our thoughts about sports the way we were listening on the radio. Pausing the radio in the car, turning the volume down, and kind of interjecting with our own little thing. And eventually, it just blossomed into, why don't we just do this on
Yeah,
our own?
that's great. I don't think I've ever done that where you think to like, I need to mute this for a second and get my point across, but
It
that's really
surely is annoying if like you're in the back seat and you're with the two crazy kids in the front who keep pausing and restarting the radio, but it's a good way to get into sports media for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, practice makes perfect. I mean, that's what better way than to get some live reps that way.
Yeah.
So what were kind of the early days of TBR like? How did you get started? And when did you really kind of see the momentum take off?
Yeah, they were definitely, I don't wanna say weird, but it was interesting that we didn't have much direction, didn't really know what we wanted to do, we just knew we wanted to do it, and, for a while, just kinda throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what would stick. It was very blog and podcast oriented in the beginning, which was something that I was always interested in, was writing.
Yes.
So I'd tried blogging for my whole life, just starting different things here and there, trying to write for other publications and things like that, freelancing. And I was heavy on kind of the writing stuff, and Carp was heavy on the media stuff. Talked just Boston sports, kind of everything sports for the first year. And then I would say COVID was a big turning point for us. Sports shut down, life shuts down. And we really took it as an opportunity to like reinvent the wheel. I was a junior in high school, I think, starting to think about where you're going to go to college, what you're going to do with your life. And if you're, 17, 18 years old when the pandemic hit, I mean, it affected everybody. I think especially those kids around those age, it was a little bit for me like a reality check moment. Like, all right, like what's my purpose in life? Like, what am I going to do? Like, I have to actually think about like where I'm going to live for the next 4 years. Am I moving away from home and from Boston for the first time? Am I gonna study, you know, business or finance like everybody else, all my friends at school, or am I gonna go and try and figure out what I actually want to do? And it was a good time for TBR to kind of figure out what we wanted to become. And we really reinvented the wheel. We saw a lot of success with just kind of like, I don't even know how to put it, but just like dumb stuff that we were trying during COVID. The big thing was that obviously the image that's ingrained in my head from COVID was right before the NCAA March Madness tournament. All the leagues are shutting down quite literally in the middle of the game. So I remember
Yeah.
sitting with a couple buddies of mine, and we're watching college basketball, and they drop the ball in the middle of the court and they walk off. And I think we all kind of had that, oh, this is real. Like there's, something like apocalyptic about what's going on right now. Like the world is shutting down in front of our eyes. I think we were recording a podcast when it happened too. And like that's another cool moment that we have kind of documented, like figuring out that the world is actually going to shut down. Um, and so I love March Madness, and I was super bummed that the tournament wasn't going to be happening. The NHL shuts down, everything shuts down, and I was bored out of my mind, and I was so bummed because I love sports and I love watching sports, especially March Madness. There's just something
Oh yeah.
about it. I'm just hooked. And so I had like the NCAA basketball video game on the Xbox 360 with Blake Griffin on the cover. And I was like, what if we did the tournament anyways? Like we had somewhat of a following at that point, nothing crazy, but enough people that like maybe they'd be interested. So we put together like our own bracket challenge. We're like, hey, I think I made it on Google Sheets. I'm like, copy this Google Sheet. I like put the link on our Instagram story, or I was like, you can email me and I'll email you back and I'll share with you this Google Sheet. And it was a bracket and that you could fill out,
Wow.
and it was what was going to be the tournament that year because I think 98% of the seeds were already determined because I think conference championship weekend had like just happened. So they were about to do like the final bracket selection. So we pretty much knew what it was going to look like. So we made it. All the teams were in the NCAA video game. And I sat every night for like a month and simulated the games. I didn't even play them. I just ran the simulation on my 360. We live streamed on like YouTube and Instagram, and people were so into it. We got like hundreds of bracket submissions. People were like in the YouTube live chat every night talking with me. And so that was kind of like what we did through COVID was like, let's find ways that we can bring sports back and kind of make like dumb little sports video games or whatever it may be. Like, let's bring them to life a little bit. So that was kind of the turning point was COVID. For the first time I actually like saw the vision. I'm like, all right, like we could do this. We could take stuff that people care about that you're not like supposed to care about, or it might be a little childish or, trivial or whatever. But we could bring it to life and we could make it something that's, far bigger than it ever could be. And we could make people care about it. And so from that point on, I think we really dialed in on like what our niche was, but those were the humble beginnings of kind of, what TBR became today.
That's what I've always loved about your content is that it's at the heart and core of it, it's sports, but it's in kind of like a different, fun, kind of roundabout way that's sports adjacent, but it's like you're not just sitting there and going through stats and you're doing this and that. It's like it's more fun and it's like a less serious version of sports media.
Yeah, I think a lot of people and all power to them, and I try and do this a lot too, but like everybody when they're starting out wants to kind of like, oh, I'm gonna be like the guy that gives hot takes or I'm gonna, analyze games. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The problem is it's like you and everybody else is doing that. So like how do you separate yourselves? And how do you make content that's enjoyable too? I think, when we were doing the podcast early on, it got very stale and we figured that out during COVID, like trying to come up with episodes. Like I remember, I forget the exact topic, but like we were so just dry and desperate for content that we were coming up with like hypothetical sports scenario. You start doing those debates
Mhm.
like, oh, who's the GOAT or whatever. It's like, oh, great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna listen to these three kids for an hour, like whatever. And so we were like coming up with these total hypothetical scenarios. And I think we all like mid episode realized like, yeah, we've got nothing. Like this is stupid. We have to figure something out because we're enjoying what we're doing. Obviously, we want to keep doing it. We want to build a following. It's a great time to do it. But like, we can't just be the guys that are like, well, hot take or this is what happened in this game and this is my take on it. Because again, when you're small potatoes, nobody really cares, unless you're going for like engagement bait or like rage bait or whatever. Then like no one actually wants to hear your thoughts. So how do we make people care about the content? And yeah, that's kind of the like what we figured out was like people like trivia, people like, simulation, sports video games, drafting things, ranking things. Like let's bring the small stuff that no one maybe thinks to care about. Let's bring that to life a little bit.
For sure. You actually kind of led me right to my next topic, with the trivia and rankings and stuff like that. You've obviously done a lot of man on the street type videos out in front of the garden, kind of out and about. with real fans that are just out and about. And I always laugh at these videos when people are so confident when you kind of start the video, when you go up to them, and then they kind of don't know. And it's like the answer is right in front of you because, you know, a lot of the questions you ask are they're relatively common knowledge. It's just, and I wonder if people kind of freeze behind the camera or if it's like they kind of overestimated their knowledge. But it always gives me a riot when I'm like sitting there watching the video on TikTok and I'm screaming the answer at them and they just don't have it in front of them. But how do you like, or how do you enjoy those kind of moments? And how did you get started doing that?
Yeah, I love the man on the street stuff. I think, to your point, there's definitely a calculated risk when we go and do these, because you're in an environment where you can't control anything. So you're outside the garden. We've done this at a couple other events. We were at the Stanley Cup in Florida last year, which was really an uncontrollable environment because I'd never really been down there. I've been to Florida, but I'd never been to Amerant Bank Arena. We're traveling with our equipment. We're staying at a hotel like couple miles away. So we didn't really know what we'd be able to bring down to the rink, like where we'd be able to film. At the Garden, I've been there a gazillion times. I kind of know where to set up. But there is an element of risk involved in the man on the street because you just don't know what you're going to get. You can't control what people are going to say. You can't control who you ask the questions to. That's another big thing that we get a lot of comments about. They're like, can you find people that know stuff about hockey or know stuff about sports? It's like, what do you want me to do? Like, go up and screen these people before we ask, like,
Yeah.
oh, do you know about how? Like, everyone's going to say yes. They see the camera. They want to be on, social media, or they want to be on videos or whatever. Um, so there's a lot of like combing through like the bad, so to speak, not the bad, but like the stuff that's just not going to work, and then the stuff that is really going to work. But yeah, to your point, it is funny to see people kind of freeze in the moment. I don't exactly know if there's like a science behind, like, yeah, it's the, being on the spot. We have a lot of people say that to us, as we've kind of made more and more of these videos and built more of a following and become more recognizable. People will come up to us on the street. They're like, oh my God, I follow your page. Can I be in one of your videos? And then we'll film it. And then afterwards they're like, oh, it's so much harder here than it is like watching at home. And I would agree with that in a sense. But I also think that, I don't know. I think there's just an element of maybe like this stuff escapes you in
Yeah.
a certain sense. Like it might be easy when you're sitting at home and watching it, but I find there's a lot of videos from similar creators who make trivia, sports trivia stuff, where I'm like, oh, I didn't know that, or I've never. It seems simple, but I didn't think about how many NHL teams have orange in their logo. Like I forgot about this one team completely. Like so, I put myself in the shoes of like the people doing it, and I'm like, oh, maybe this is just stuff that, you might know so much about hockey, but like when you kind of pull the curtain back or, peel the onion back and look at the basics of like what teams have circular logos, you're like, oh my God, like what teams do have circular logos? I don't know. Um, we had a kid recently we were filming this past year, and he was a big fan of the page, and he was like so pumped, and his parents were so pumped. They came up to us, they're like, oh my God, we watch all your videos. And I'm like, oh, you got to be in one of them. And so he did it. And we had another kid from TBR run the interview, and I was behind the camera. I'd been going all morning, and so I was like, give me a break, like I need to rest my voice, I need to like go grab a coffee. And I was standing there with his parents watching, and I think we were feeding him like two basic questions, and his mom kind of nudged me, and she's like, he's going to be disappointed, like he was hoping you would really like test his knowledge. And I guess he knew like every player in their hometown and their stats and whatever. And so you get a lot of that too, where it's like you might know every single statistic about every player in the NHL, but we hit you with the logo question, and like you might look like an idiot. But I think it's good and it's healthy to kind of be vulnerable in front of the camera like that. I mean, um, what's good about, I think, my role in it is like I don't try to come from a place of like, oh, I know it. I mean, obviously I do because I have the answers in front of me. But when we're out there on the street with people, I mean, I'm not trying to expose anybody or make anybody feel bad about not knowing it. I think it's quite the opposite. It's like, let's embrace the fact that like we're we're all kind of stumped by the basic stupidity of life and of sports. And I think that's what's good about the content is that people have fallen in love with the content and like what it speaks to, and not necessarily like us as individuals. So I'm not trying to be like, oh, that's the guy that like the gotcha guy who stands outside the
Yeah.
garden. It's like, oh, those like they're gonna ask us the questions about the logos. I want to do that, you know?
It's the my favorite videos that come out of kind of that series are the ones where you say it's 5 teams that have a circle logo and they bang out the first 4, and it's like they're sitting there wearing a Bruins jersey, and that's the one that they can't come up with, or it's name certain players and that's the jersey that they're wearing, and it's like I feel like there's a handful of those that it's like when they watch that back, they're like, "How did in that moment is David Pastrnak the last answer that I couldn't come up with, and I'm standing
Yeah.
in front of the Bobby Orr statue?"
Those ones are fun to edit because you can really have some fun with that. I think we 2 seasons ago we interviewed a father and a son who were traveling to Boston. It was a Capitals game. They were Caps fans. They were super nice. They had seen the content and they wanted to be in the video. And I think we asked them, it was like teams that have a hockey stick or hockey puck in their logo, one of the two. The Caps have both.
Yeah.
Um, and I asked the question right off the bat. They look at each other like I have 3 heads, and they're like, "Oh my god, what teams have a hockey puck?" And so I had kind of some fun with that afterwards, like the slow zoom on the jersey they're wearing that has both the puck and the stick, like cricket sounds. And I think in those moments it's fun too because like that's what's going through my head when I'm doing the interview. So I can kind of like actually replicate that. Like, you know, there's a lot of editing that's involved, and we get some flack for that. People are like, "Oh, you obviously are editing bad answers," which I'll say right now, I don't take any answers out. People think that I do because of the way that we kind of cut the videos. What we take out is dead space. We don't put anybody on the clock. It's not fair. These people are giving us their time. It's a
Mhm.
big help to us because they're giving us content. They don't have any obligation to us. They don't have any obligation to be in the content or be a part of the videos or be good at it. We're just, hoping that they agree to be in the videos because at the end of the day, like you get a lot more no's than you get yeses in terms of like when you go and ask people. So anybody that's willing to be on the camera, like so grateful for that. But there's a lot of editing that's involved after the fact because some people will take their time. Maybe, you're outside the garden too. So some people will pop into the camera and think that they're on TV and say something stupid, or people that we're interviewing will see people they know and will kind of like walk away for a second. So you have to kind of splice it up. And so people have accused us of being like, oh, you're making them look better. You're taking out answers, which is not true. I don't take out any bad answers. I just take out the dead space that nobody would want to see. But it is kind of fun to edit videos the way that it feels when we're on the street. So when I ask someone a question like that and they stare at each other and they have no clue and I'm kind of just there awkwardly like, "Oh my god, like did I feed them a question that they're just going to totally like pass on and we just wasted content, or like are they going to come up with some sort of answer or something?" I'm hearing the crickets in my head and I'm hearing like the
The
hamster
Jeopardy
wheel and
music.
theirs go. Exactly, yeah. So to be able to kind of implement that in the video is cool too, but yeah, you're right. Those ones are funny. Like I don't watch our content back that much after it goes out, just because I lived it. I don't, I know what it's like. I don't need to see it all that often, but every now and then when we're kind of, maybe we're talking with like sponsors or whatever, and we're kind of showing them content, I'll go through and I'll try and pick out the ones that I think hit home the most, and then I'll kind of go down the rabbit hole of, memory lane and looking at some of the old interviews or some of the best hits and the highest viewed ones or whatever. And it's always the ones where like the obvious answer is right there and they just can't seem to get to it. And it's like could be on their jersey, could be like right, might be the team the Bruins are playing that day. It might be the Bruins,
Yeah.
and those are the best. Yeah.
The comment sections on those ones are great too, because it's I mean, I'm sure that that drives a ton of engagement when there's the obvious answer, and people at home, like you said, it's easier to know the answer when you're sitting at home, especially you're staring at the logo that they may not be looking at because it's on their chest, and, I just always get a kick out of the comment section on those ones.
Yeah.
When you do the kind of filter, like the blind ranking, or I love when you did the, trying to get the same city, all 4 sports, um, how do you kind of find those filters? Is that something that you're actively looking for? They pop up on your feed, and that's how you kind of you're like, "Oh, I wanna do something with that one?" What's your
Yeah,
process with
it's
those
a little
videos?
It's a little bit of both. That was actually how like the TBR TikTok really took off. Was it was our first video that got over 1 million. It did it like overnight. It was 3 years ago now. It was me doing the NHL logo filter challenge, and I'll shout him out. His name is Peter, but his username I think is OrthoMerce 2009. I think I'm getting that right. If I'm not, I'm sorry. He's like the godfather of the TikTok logo filter challenges. So he kind of blew up doing NFL stuff, and he would try and like name like 5,000 yard passers or like get 5,000 touchdowns or whatever. I was addicted to these videos. I mean, the guy was like in his basement. Yeah, I remember like he would walk down to his basement. He'd have like the sheet of paper, and he was writing down like 50 names. And I'm like, first of all, the sports knowledge is incredible, but secondly, this content is so addicting, and it never really clicked with me to do it. I just would watch it forever for like months and months and months. That was like I'd just sit and watch this guy, and I'd like go down the rabbit hole. I'm like, this is like so addicting. And then one night I was like, no one's done this for like hockey yet. And I looked, and I spent like the whole night looking. Nobody had done it. And I was like, I could like kind of light bulb moment there. Like I could be the first. This could be big. I'm watching this guy. He's got like 300,000 followers, just, naming random players in his basement. Like I can do that. I can build a following doing that. So I made the video that night. Um, I did like 1 million overnight. The NHL reached out, which was sick. They like wanted to repost it and like have me do some content for them. Like so many people like were commenting, like NHL players, NHL teams. Like the video just kind of blew up. It was something like I'd never seen before. So from that point on, for like a year, I was just doing that. So like logo filter stuff and like dumb challenges, dumb trivia, things like that. So I kind of got ingrained in the world of sports logo filter TikTok challenges. And then we started doing like man on the street and trivia. I kind of actually built the page up a little bit more, and I kind of steered away from that, at least as like the driving force. But I still always see the creators that do that stuff, follow a bunch of the guys that do it, or kind of like started doing it because of us, and kind of like attributed their pages, kind of challenges to like what we'd started. So I see the filters on my page. And if I see one every now and then, I'm like, oh, that might be a good like one-off video. Then I'll kind of capitalize on that, utilize the filter. But then there's other times too where I'll have just ideas like the city thing. That kind of like took on a life of its own this past year. That was a filter that I'd used in the past, and I think it's actually supposed to be like whoever created the filter intended for it to be like something different. Like the
Mhm.
challenge itself was not supposed to be like what I ended up using it for, but I would use that filter for like so many different things. And I used it like 2 summers ago, and I think I did the same challenge, and it just didn't like have the legs that it did this time around. So I started using that filter again, and people were commenting like, "You should try and get the same city." And I would respond like the first few times, like, I've already done that. Like, and then I kind of realized I'm like, no one saw me do it. Like, I did it a couple of years ago, but clearly nobody's remembering. So I just did it. I was like, all right, let's do it again. And then, um, it took me so long to do it. Like, we came close so many times. I'd get like 3 out of the 4 cities would be in like Boston, Philly, New York, whatever. Or 3 out of the 4 teams would be in the same city. And then, we have kind of the buzzer beater moment, which was like incredible because I was hoping that the challenge would come to an end in some sort of like, you know, on way or like clippable moment. Like when you're doing those challenges, it does kind of suck when you just like get it. There's kind of like an adrenaline dump of like, "Oh, I got it, but like this has been so fun to like not get it and like be so close. You want getting it to like feel so good and be like this moment. So the fact that I got it like right when the video runs out is like unbelievable. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into doing that stuff. Was like that was like originally like what our TikTok was about for a while, and so I'm still very much like in that world on TikTok and like in that niche, and my algorithm still sends me to those videos. So sometimes it just kind of like finds me.
Yeah, that hitting the all 4 from the same city, pretty sure that's the clip that was the last clip in the hype video that I made for you, and you throw your arms up, and it's then the video just cuts because you just completely ran out of time.
Yeah,
Um
that's the funny thing too, which like I think that's what made that video so like, or the end of the video, like the engagement was so high. And I think of all the videos that we've gotten a ton of comments on, which like credit to like our followers and the people that watch our videos. Like they have good comments. Like I have a good laugh with some of the comments that people will leave us. That video just like blew up and it got so many comments and people were screenshotting like the Kawhi Leonard buzzer beater where
Yeah.
he and Joel Embiid are like looking at the ball go like that. I was like, this is awesome. Like that's how I felt in that moment. But you're right, the video cuts off and like I don't think people know that, or people probably know, but some people were commenting on that video or on similar videos like that because it was only supposed to be a minute. So I set the video for a
The
minute.
60-second
Yeah,
timer,
so
yeah.
I wouldn't go over. And so I had it set on 60 seconds for that. So my most of my like in-person celebration got cut off because the video ended. I don't even know if it registered for me that it had ended because I think I ended up celebrating more. But like back in the day when I used to do like the hockey challenges, I had a big one that I was doing for a long time was try and get 5 current players who have like 5,000 combined points in their career. That one was like the big one that took me forever. I think it was like 30 something parts. And I finally did it. And there was no timer on that one. So I celebrated hard. And I'm like, I can get a little intense when I get like competitive and excited. Um, if anybody saw me reacting to the US winning the gold this past weekend, I was like the most electric I've ever been. I just like, charge got sent through my body when they scored that goal. And I made a video just screaming at my phone.
Yeah.
That's what I used to do with the challenges. When I'd hit a big challenge that it was like taking me forever to do, I would just like scream into the phone, like kind of like the bowler guy, Pete Weber, when he said, "Who do you think you
Yeah,
are? I am."
yeah.
Like I'll just scream stuff that like
It just
doesn't
doesn't
really
even make
make
any sense.
sense. Yeah, and it's just like whatever like pops in my head, I get so excited. And so I was a little bummed that I didn't get the opportunity when I hit that challenge to like actually celebrate it, but I think the video cutting off actually made it better.
Well, I think it probably takes any sort of, like, editing accusation out of it because it's like, "Oh, this is just it's 60 seconds, from 0 to 60 seconds, and this is all you saw." Like, there's nothing, no funny business on
Yeah,
there,
no
like, this is
controversy there.
yeah,
Which
that's
is
great.
good because like all of our other challenges in our man on the street and our in person, there's always somebody accusing us of like, oh, cheating or oh, this or whatever. It's like, I don't have incentive to cheat. Like I've looked dumb enough on the channel. Like I'm not trying to make myself look smarter.
Yeah.
Like when I did that first NHL TikTok challenge, like I don't know if it was just nerves or if it was just like, spur of the moment, but I mean, I was doing like all time goal scorers. I left some legends off the list. And like we got so many comments like, "Oh, you're so young, you don't even know who Wayne Gretzky is or whatever." It's like, I've made myself look dumb enough. Like I'm not trying to make myself look better. If you want to find me looking dumb and not knowing my shit, like it's out there. Like no one's cheating on this channel. No one's like trying to, if anything, I don't want to hit the challenges because it keeps it going and it's fun, you know. Um yeah, I don't want to keep it going. Yes, I want to keep it going for the engagement, but I also want to keep it going because it's fun for me. Like I love
Yeah.
sitting down and filming these things, like when you lose that, when you finally, hit the challenge and that kind of like build up of like, oh, he's on day 30, he's on day whatever. It also takes away a part of like your life, It's like, I would set aside time every day to be like, all right, today's day 29. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do this. And so when you lose that, it kind of sucks.
Well, the suspense of it all when and I think it's brilliant the way you would do it, and I've, seen other people do it too, but when you put it as, like, this challenge part 15, and that comes up on your For You page, and you get engaged to it, you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna see where he's at in this," and, like, for all you know, you go there and it's like, "Oh, he's done it," but, like, you still have 10 videos to watch, like, to get through the process, and it brings you directly to your page to kinda find other videos and stay within your content.
Yeah, and I think that was part of the goal was to like make it almost like a TV show. And so I made it a point to not film any back to back. So a lot of people or a lot of my buddies on my beer league team, like I'd come into the locker room and they would kind of ask me, they're like, "Oh, did you film day 30 yet or day whatever? Like, do you get it?" I'm like, "No, tomorrow's day 30." Like, I'm not gonna like film them ahead. It's not as much fun. It's equally as fun for me to set aside time in a day and just do it once the same way that everybody else will like set aside time in a day and watch me do it once. Like I'm just going to do it once a day because then it builds out to like this thing for me. Like, all right, like tomorrow's the day, tomorrow's the day, tomorrow's the day. It's kind of like the guy who's not cutting his hair for Man United right now. If anybody
Yeah,
has seen that challenge, it's like
it's
that's taken on a life of its own.
yeah.
but it's kind of like that. It's like each day. It's not just like part whatever. It's like, all right, we're gonna do it tomorrow. Like we'll see you all tomorrow. And so when we kind of get into those crazy long challenges, it does kind of feel like you're on this like show or this journey or like you're in like a best of seven series where it's like, all right, like we lost it today, but we're gonna be back tomorrow, and we have tomorrow to look forward to. And I think at the end of the day, it like helps everybody kind of just like get through life in a way. I mean, like, we're all working, we're all, just like experiencing life. Everybody has ups and downs in life. And, I think it's good for everybody to have something to look forward to. And like for me, it was that. Like, all right, like I have a super busy day tomorrow, or like I have this thing that I'm dreading, or I'm sick or whatever. I don't feel well. But like tomorrow at 3 p.m., like I'm locking in and we're doing this challenge. And like that's gonna be like my thing for the day that I have to look forward to. And a lot of people have said that too. They're like, dude, I can't wait to watch challenges like tomorrow. And everyone will comment if I don't get it. They're like, it's coming tomorrow. I can feel it. We're gonna be back. So like, it's awesome.
I love to hear, like, that you're not just putting out content because you know that it works. It's like it's I can hear it in your voice that you genuinely enjoy doing that stuff, and, like, the excitement of it all is genuine and it's not, fake. Um, I yesterday I made this video and I'm driving home from work and I'm just thinking, like, for whatever reason the 99 popped into my head. There was probably a radio on the ad. And I just like started playing this like script in my head and I'm like, I'm gonna like romanticize like a night of going to the 99. And I like couldn't wait to get home and like set up my camera and just like talk super seriously about the 99 and then just like edit a video and put it out. I just like I said I posted it and I was like, that was so much fun. Just like the process of like coming up with the idea, putting it together, and then putting it out, and just like was something that whether it takes off or not, like it was just fun to do.
Yeah, I mean, you have to love creating content, and I think it can get stale and it can get repetitive, but there are ways to kind of combat that. I think for me recently, I was home for Christmas break, or like week of Christmas, whatever. And so I was at my parents' house, and they were off at work, and I was working remotely, so I was just kind of like had my childhood home to myself, and kind of had flashbacks of like growing up with a YouTube channel, like doing all the dumb stuff like when I was super young, like my first actually taste of like success in content was my cousin and I made like a mini hockey video and it blew up on YouTube. I was like in like 5th grade, I think 5th or 6th grade, and the video got like millions and millions of views. And it's funny, I get some comments, they're like, were you that kid that made that mini hockey video like way back? Like, so to kind of like come full circle, and now like people from 12, 13, 14 years ago when I put that video out are like recognizing me still in content now. It's cool. But when I was home, I kind of just was remembering like I used to do this every day, like after school, like come up with like scenarios like that and like execute on them or like build kind of a video out. And so I was like, can I do that now? Like I've never really done it when I had a following. Like, what can I do? Like I'm here. I have like the entire house, like all my childhood, like memories, hockey equipment, whatever. Like, what can I do? And I ended up like remaking a scene for a Miracle just because I was like bored. I think the movie like was on TV that day or something. Had it on in the background while I was on Zoom calls for work or whatever. And yeah, I ended up like finding a tan blazer, dressing up like Herb Brooks, did like the bruise on the leg scene.
Yep.
Luckily, my beer league team, we were the dream team, so we have like the Miracle jerseys. So dressed up like Rob McClanahan with the ice pack on his leg and like stuff like that. Like I had a blast doing that. It was just me and the camera, but like I had the idea, execute on it, and it's like that was a way. The video didn't like kill it or anything, but like it was a way that like kind of made my content day worthwhile, made it a little bit more exciting than just like, all right, I have to sit down and edit like 10 videos today.
Hmm. That's I'll have to try. I don't think I saw that one. I'll have to go back and look at that one.
Yeah, not a lot
Um,
of people did. It kind of flopped, but it was fun to make.
and that's all that matters, really. I think, especially when you have the success you do, it's like whatever, what's a miss here and there, but if you have fun doing it, it's what keeps you going.
Yeah.
We're coming up on 40 minutes, and we've kind of danced around it, mentioned it a couple times, but we haven't even talked about the Olympics. I mean, you said you went nuts. I was on TikTok live through the third period and then into overtime, and I was almost stunned that like I screamed when it happened, but then I was just like, I don't even know what to say now. Like I, still like getting comfortable on camera, but I was just like, it was my first time really doing TikTok live, and I'm like, I don't even know what to say. And then it was crazy to see like the room like fill up like with people like they watch the game and they immediately want to get online and see like what people are saying. Was just really cool moment. But what was your process like? Would you watch the game at home? Did you go out? What'd you do for the game?
Yeah, I was working. I was covering the game for Nesson, so I was, obviously it was a weekend game, so I was just, at home. Was able to cover the game from home, especially because the Olympic broadcast, you're really not allowed to rip anything from the Olympics. That was kind of the big thing on social media was there was no highlights. And so it was basically just going to be like, hey, if like McAvoy scores or something, because it's Nesson, Boston athlete, like post about it. Obviously Boldy scored the first goal and he's, from Mass, went to BC. So we kind of did a little spot on that. And then they won. So we put a win graphic out there, but like not too much outside of that. But I just need to be like present, just in case anything ever happened. But when it went to overtime, I was like, all right, I'm locking in like I had the win graphic ready. I didn't want to like jinx anything, which is a weird thing that I'm still battling with because I am like very superstitious. But like when you're working in like live sports, you kind of have
You
to
have
jinx
to.
things. Yeah. So like had the USA wins gold graphic like hesitantly like uploaded it and was like, if they won, press send right away. And I'm like, they're not gonna win, and this is gonna suck to have to delete this or take it out of the queue. Um, so I was texting with Michael, who is, the number two here at TBR. And he and I just, when we're not talking work and talking content, we're just talking shop about hockey. And so we're chatting back and forth. And I kept telling him, I'm like, I don't feel good about this. Like,
No,
I,
I
I
don't.
was,
I don't know how you could, based on how
no,
the
I
second and
mean,
third period went.
yeah, I mean, we can talk about the aftermath of whatever the excuses that everybody's giving for like why the US won or whatever, but like going into 3-on-3 overtime and you're staring down Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, and Cale Makar, you're not on the winning side of things. Like you're just not. And so I was texting him and I'm like, dude, I don't feel good about this. Like I was at Four Nations last year. I saw McDavid score, the dagger in the hearts of American hockey fans at the Garden. Like that sucked. Like it's gonna happen again. You just know it. Like I said beforehand in like my preview, I said I actually picked Canada to win the whole tournament ahead of time, and I did believe that they were just going to be a stronger team, and that if the U.S. had to go through like Sweden and Finland, which they actually didn't have to go through both because of the way it worked out, but if they did, it would just be too tough of a road. So I was bracing myself for Canada to win, and I was on Canada to win. Like I actually thought they were gonna win, but I said if the U.S. is gonna do it pregame, it can't be a close game. They have to win the way they won at Four Nations in like the round robin. They have to win by like 2 or 3 goals. So when it went to overtime, I was texting Michael and I said, "There's just no chance. Like we're gonna lose this game. There's just no way. Like I mean, who do we have? Like Austin Matthews. When's he been known to show up in a big game? Like come on. Like he's no match for Connor McDavid. So when they scored, and Michael, I'll give him credit. Michael said he's feeling good about it. And he was I was like, dude, I'm not feeling good about it. He's like, dude, I am. He's like, come on, we're going to win this. No, we're not. We're going to lose. Credit to both of us. We both said, if anybody's going to do it, it's Jack Hughes, which I don't know why I said that, but I actually put the text message in a recent TikTok I posted. It's like right before overtime started. I was like, dude, low key, Jack Hughes has been like buzzing. And you could see it kind of building up. Like on that power play when he drew the high stick, like he stayed out there. Like he had a couple really good looks and he was playing a good game. And we both said like, yeah, Jack Hughes has been playing well, like low key, like he could be the one. So I think it's cool that he ended up scoring it. But I went ballistic when they won. I had my phone. My girlfriend was at work, which it was probably better that she didn't see me like that. Um, I'm
Yeah, my
sure
wife
my
wasn't home, which was good.
yeah, I mean, my reaction wouldn't have changed. So we've been together almost 5 years, so she's seen it. But I was just me and the TV. I took my phone out. I made the story on the TBR Instagram. I just screaming into the phone. I don't even think I said anything. I think I was just screaming. And then once kind of the adrenaline came down, a couple more videos, just about the win and kind of how it all unfolded. I mean, then obviously there was the discourse afterwards about not deserving it, and Canada was better for 99% of the game, which I have my thoughts on all of that, which is whatever, but like I think the better team won the game. Like at the end of the day, like, yeah, you can be the better. You had more pressure, you had more shots, you had more whatever. But like in my opinion, the better team is the one that scored 2 goals and not the one that scored one. So
Yeah, that's what when I had shout out Dylan Webb, I had him on the other day, we were talking about the same thing. It's like, I don't know how you can kind of say that they're the better team when goaltending is part of the game. They had clearly the better goaltender, and then just simply put, they scored one more goal than you did. Like, it
yeah.
doesn't matter everything that happens between that. That's what it comes down to. So to say 99% of the game, it's like the goalie and scoring more goals is way more than 1% of the game.
Well, Hellebuck is just what McDavid is, but at goalie. He's like your one game breaker. Like they have like if McDavid had taken control of that overtime and scored, I think a lot of American fans probably would have been like, "Oh, it's just McDavid." So like fair play if that's what everybody's, gonna say, then that's what they're gonna say. But I don't think you can be like, "Oh, without Hellebuck." Like to me, that's the dumbest thing. It's like, okay, well, he's the goalie. Like it's probably one of the most important positions in professional sports. You can't just discount it like, "Oh, if you didn't have Hellebuck." It's like, okay, but we do and we did. And he played the game of his life, which he'd never done, by the way.
Exactly.
It's not like we had, prime Patrick Waugh in net where you knew he was going to have a game like that. Like that was the one knock on his career was he'd never shown up in a big game. He showed up in a big game, and now it's like, oh, we didn't deserve it. It's like 1,000% deserved it.
You just look at that overtime and 3 on 3, which we talked about the other day, clearly favors Canada. They had the top 3 players in the world. I don't think anybody would put anybody ahead of McDavid, McKinnon, and Makar right now as the top 3 players in the world. And then just even if you want to talk goalies, if you put their resumes down, who has the better big game history? Jordan Binnington, say what you want about him, but he's won a cup. He won the Four Nations. Like he's got big game, a big game resume. And Hellebuck doesn't. So everything favored them in that moment. And for them to pull that off the way they did, it's just unreal with those three on the ice.
That's the best, or that's been the best catch 22 moment in the wake of the gold medal game is a lot of the Canadians. First of all, shout out our Canadian followers. We have like 80% Canadian
Yeah.
followers, so I'm not like,
Oh yeah.
dissing you guys at all, but I read your comments. Like you were pretty vocal after the game, and everybody was saying, well, it shouldn't be 3-on-3. It should be 5-on-5. It's like, okay, well, you won a 3-on-3 overtime game to get to the gold medal game. So you can't complain about the rules now because they didn't favor you. Like, what if it was 5-on-5 against Czechia? Does that mean Czechia beats you? Like, or did you need 5-on-5 just to beat the US? If you did, then that's pretty pathetic because you have the three best players in the world. So then you pitch them that argument. Oh, you had McDavid, McKinnon, Makar. Are you saying they're not the three best players in the world now? Like, are you saying we have the better 3-on-3? Oh, that's not what you're saying. Okay, it's goaltending. Okay, well, you had the better goaltender coming into it. Like you said, Jordan Binnington, if he played every game of his career at the TD Garden in an elimination game, he's the best goalie that's ever lived. So, like, are you saying that, like, Connor Hellebuck is a much better goalie and a much more clutch goalie than Jordan Binnington in that situation? It's like, you can't, like, there's just, I get that the emotion was raw after that game. Like, that's all that Canada has, and they were
I would
stunned.
have I
They
would have
were
been
stunned to lose that game, but like, there's no excuse. Like, you can't be like, oh, they didn't deserve it. Like, okay, well, if the US didn't deserve it, who did? Because Canada only scored 1 goal, and it was a good goal, but it was a little like, we win that faceoff and that puck never gets to Kale McCarr. It was just like we needed to win a draw. It was like one of the only D zone draws we'd lost all night. So it's like, is what it is. But yeah, it's so funny to like see the crash outs happening, and like people will combat it and be like, well, you won a 3-on-3 overtime game. So like, what do you say now? It's like they don't have anything to say now.
yeah, I'm a as you can see, I'm a Bruins and a Cowboys fan, so
I was gonna ask. I was like so confused the whole show. I'm like,
yeah.
is that like actually? So
Yeah,
how does
so
that happen?
I just I'm 36 years old, so I was 6, 7, 8 in the 90s, and just that's when I started watching football, loved Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, and just kinda stuck with it. Really loved Tony Romo for whatever reason, was just my favorite player, and so I'm not used to, like, winning. I'm used to, like, the the ultimate disappointment. Take 2011 out of it and take the Red Sox success out, like, I am just like when I go to a big game, I'm like, "I am not expecting to win," so I'm taking this as like I have earned this. I am gonna celebrate this and embrace it. I can't get enough of it. Um, but yeah, it's just been so great to just see. I mean, it sucks that there was a little bit of drama there, but I like I said the other day on the podcast, history I think will be kind to it, and that'll be an afterthought.
Yeah.
The what happened on the ice is what's really going to matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's historic. I have a buddy who's, from, like, Rochester, Buffalo area, and so he's, like, a Buffalo sports fan through and through, and, we have a group chat, a few of us, and he was texting the group chat, and he's like, "I've never won anything before in my life," and it's like it's kind of cocky for, like, us to be like, "Wait, what the hell? You haven't?" But it's like, we've experienced winning so much, like, growing up in Mass, and, like, I'm a Boston sports fan through and through, and then, like, I follow other, sports as well. And, by the way, I don't at all like call you out for being a Cowboys fan. Like, I get so much flack for like, I'm a big European soccer fan, like huge. And if you can't see it in the background there, gigantic Arsenal fan, like gigantic. And now that they're good, I've been very vocal about being an Arsenal fan on like my stories or whatever. And everybody's accused me of like, oh, you're just like getting into soccer now and picking the team that's in first in the Prem. It's like, I have been an Arsenal fan for years and years and years. I went to an Arsenal away game in London and suffered being an away fan at a European sporting event, which is so different. Like, I was a fan when they were bad. Like, now you're just realizing I'm a fan when they're good. So, like, I am not, one to call the kettle black when it comes to like being a bandwagon or being called a bandwagon or whatever. It's so frustrating just because people don't get it. But being from Boston and being a Boston sports fan, we've experienced winning for like ever. And
Yep,
so when this kid was texting me and he was like, "This is like the biggest win of my life." He's like, "I've never experienced what it's felt like for like your team to win a championship." I'm like, "Oh my God." Like, you're right. Like, it's a
it's
big
a
win
crazy
for me as a
existence.
hockey fan, just because I love, US hockey. And I was, we had McAvoy on that team, Swayman. It was like so cool. But it's really big for like all the other Americans whose teams haven't won jack, you know? So like shout out to them because it's an even bigger win for them than it is like, those of us who are spoiled by our pro sports teams.
And it's fun too as Americans, and obviously if you have, whether you have Canadian friends, Swedish friends, German, whatever, like for the most part, I would imagine most of your friends are American too, and it's just something that you're all in together. Like it was like the all your group chats are just like everybody's pulling the same direction. There's no like pulling you down or like making fun of you for this or like there's no like rubbing it in somebody's face. It's like a truly like embracing moment, which I thought was awesome and obviously very patriotic and really kind of pulled the whole country together for a few hours.
Yeah, it was really cool. I will say, I grew up in my town that I grew up in Mass. We had a hockey exchange every year. It's like the longest running North American exchange or whatever. So we had a exchange with a town outside of Montreal, and so every year we'd go there. Every year they'd come here, and you kind of get paired with like a billet family and like they called them like your buddy or whatever. And so you become lifelong friends with these people, and then especially the ones that you lived with. And so he's like the one Canadian that I like know and stay in touch with. And his English like isn't great. He's like native French speaker. And so he texts me after the game and he was like, "I'm happy for you. I'm happy you guys won." He goes, "But I really hate life right now." And I was like, he's the one I feel bad for because it's like,
Yeah.
everyone else is like yapping about whatever. We didn't deserve it. Like this kid, he was like, "I love Canadian hockey," and I'm like depressed. And it's like, yeah, when you like have those one-on-ones with people, like you actually understand, like, yeah, this must suck for them.
Mhm.
But yeah, outside of like communicating with him, I mean, everyone else I know is from America. So it was cool to share that with people. And even people that don't watch hockey are like texting me or like, my girlfriend was super into it. Her family was super into it. And like, they're not a hockey family. They're from upstate New York as well. They're Sabres people. Like they haven't
Yep.
experienced a win. So like, it was awesome.
Experienced a win that haven't been in the playoffs in what, 15 years? It's
15
cra
years might change this year though.
Yeah, they look good. Tage, American, just
Yeah.
looks just solid.
That was
Um,
wild from him, saying that he's probably never going to go to the White House again. Like, but my buddy who's a Sabres fan texts me. He's like, "What the hell?" Like, he doesn't think we're ever gonna win one. Like, and I saw so many
Yeah,
people are like, "You could go back if you win the Olympics in 2030. Like, he's gonna be on that team. Like, he's just
yeah,
discounting. Like, no, I'm never gonna win
yeah.
anything again. This is it."
I've peaked. This is it.
That's crazy to be like, "Oh, this is the one
I
time
didn't
I'm gonna
see that he
win."
said that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it
That's
was like that. And it
hilarious.
was like this long quote, and someone pulled at the very end. He's like, "It's." I don't know if he said definitely, but he said like it's probably likely the only time I'll get to do this. And it was like insinuating like I play on a shitty team, so like, what do you want from me? Like, this is my chance. Like, it's so funny.
That's hilarious. Before we go, Brendan, I do want to ask you. Obviously, you've built up TBR. You've done so much, on your own as an independent content creator, but you also have ties to Nesson and Bleacher Report. You work for, pretty big media companies. How do you feel, kind of the independent content creator kind of has influenced the big media markets, if they feel threatened by it, if they embrace bringing people like you in to be a part of their thing, kind of the media as a whole, and where you think it's going with, people being able to just anybody who's got a phone can put out content and talk sports.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think it's it's a hot button issue right now in sports media. I would say that just in my experience, it is dependent on the network themselves. I've had an unbelievable relationship with the people at Bleacher Report. When they reached out and they wanted to bring me in as a content creator, like from day one, just made me feel like I was a part of it. And even though I was just kind of like independent contractor, not like a salaried employee, not really like going into an office or anything, but just like creating content for them and, kind of had like a content share agreement sort of thing. They made me feel like I was really a part of what they wanted to do. Um, I mean, right away, my boss who he just left, which was, really sad because you build up a relationship with these people, you become friends with these people and, you're super happy for them to move on and, take, better jobs in their career. But, you kind of, you're in the trenches with these people creating content for, a few years. And so, when people kind of move on, it is a little bit like emotional, but, he from the get go was incredible. I mean, he reached out to me via DM. We met like the next day. We just like chopped it up for like a few hours, and he just kind of made me feel like I was needed for the like future success of their page. And like it was when Bleacher Report's hockey was kind of just starting up. The NHL had shifted their rights to TNT, which obviously Bleacher Report is owned by Turner Sports Group, which is TNT. So there's a bit of a a relationship there. And he just said, he's like, look, we're bringing on like two content creators, you're one of them. And like we really feel like you can help us, and like we need your help, and what you're doing, we want you to be doing that for us. And so I think if there are companies and networks and outlets like that that exist, and I just know from kind of building a relationship with other content creators that are working at those brands, that the networks that are embracing it and not kind of rejecting it are the ones that are kind of rising above right now. And you see that, I think, what we as TBR were able to accomplish with Bleacher Report over just a few years' time, like really changed the kind of landscape of their page. And the other creator that they hired as well, shout out to Mike Bartner, who's become a good friend of mine. Um, the stuff that he was putting out, he's super talented as well. And like we kind of tag teamed, he and I, for a few years, just like unique organic content that nobody else could get aside from the Bleach Report Open Ice page. And so they really excelled. I mean, the page grew like a 500,000 followers in the time that we were working there. The same thing with the other companies that I've been fortunate enough to work with. They've all really embraced this kind of like content creator, social media era that we're in. And so I think the companies that are going to be smart about it and like you said, not reject it and not try and like out the content creators and have this kind of like old school mentality of like we do things this way and like we know how to be successful. We have the platform, you don't. Um, the companies that aren't that are the ones that are gonna continue to succeed. And so, yeah, I think I've been very fortunate to kind of find myself in situations like that. And, everybody that I've worked with and worked for has just been like incredible. And, made me feel like I was a part of it and made me feel like the content that I was creating was, gonna be helpful to people and gonna be helpful to these companies. Just felt valuable, which is it's so key. And so if you're a company that can find, micro influencers or like, lower level content creators that you feel can influence your brand or influence, the future of your company and, treat them as equal and treat them as well worth it and valuable, then like those are the companies that you're going to see still kicking it in like 10, 20 years.
That's I'd love to hear that you're treated well by, those companies that you've worked for. And Bleacher Report really does put out such great hockey content. Um, and it's good to see that, some people are embracing it and not trying to shut it down. And because, the next generation, and this is the way it is. And I think if people don't realize and get with the times, then they're going out of business. And it is good to see the people that embrace it continue to be successful.
Yeah, and I think, luckily, like, maybe it was just, like, right time, right place, but that's what happened with, the relationship or, like, the beginning of the relationship between us and Bleach Report and, the other creators that they hired. They just came to us and they're like, "We're in a spot where we need organic content that, we produce on our own." I think to that point, they were very much just, like, clipping highlights and, just kind of trying to rip content from other people, and I think they at a certain point we're like, we just need people to make content for us exclusively. And it was kind of like a dropping of the ego a little bit because at the time I think we had like 20,000 followers, so we really were like, small potatoes. And I think, when Mike Bartner got hired, I think he had a similar following as well. So they didn't go out and get like big fish or like a big
Yeah.
whale. They looked for the right fit, which I appreciated that they kind of gave us a shot. And, not only that, it was like, we had free reign to kind of do what we wanted because they understood that people were consuming our content for a reason. Like we'd built up a brand that people enjoyed. So like, who are they to kind of like dictate what we're gonna do? And like, I can honestly say, I think I'm in my fourth NHL season creating content for Bleacher Report. Like, I've never been told no. Everything that I've produced for them has ended up on the page. Like, have full free reign, have full like autonomy and creative freedom. Like there's been times where like I've just kind of gone out and like done stuff. Like we did a video for the Four Nations. I knew it was going to be in Boston and talked with my boss at Bleach Report. Was like, we should really take advantage of this. Like, is there anything you want me to get? He's like, do what you want to do and then send it to me and like I'm gonna post it. He's like, you know what you're doing. And that gives you the confidence to go out and do it as well. I think sometimes your confidence can be knocked a little bit if you have somebody being like, we want it this way, or you're not doing this right, or you need to be like doing something differently. For them to recognize that, you know, hey, they must know what they're doing, and talking about, TBR and then the other content creators, because people are following their content and they have a small following. So like, who are we to dictate what they're going to do? So I ended up just going out and like asking people like, hey, where are you from? Like, what country are you supporting? And it would be like the U.S., Canada, Sweden, Finland, whatever. And it's like, if you couldn't, root for them, if you couldn't support them, who would you want to win? And we chopped that video up. Like we got some great responses. Sent it to Bleacher Report. They posted on Open Ice, obviously, and then like the big main Bleacher Report page came in and was like, "Hey, like we want this on our page too. Like you should be doing
That's
this kind
great.
of stuff for us." So, just like that relationship that we built, like it was awesome. Like it was also my first taste of like working for like a big sports media company at that point. And just like what you couldn't have landed with a better partner in terms of like my first experience. And it just like laid the groundwork for me to, like get my foot in the door and like be able to say like, hey, like I worked for Bleacher Report, I worked with them, and I did X, Y, and Z, and like I was a big, part of like what they had going on this project or during this NHL season or whatever. Like it was unbelievable. Like I'm still grateful to this day that like, they even DM'd me. I almost deleted the DM accidentally. And so I'm glad I didn't do that. So yeah, if there's any moral of that story, if you're a content creator and you're going through your filtered DM requests, don't just auto delete them. Check and make sure that Bleacher Report didn't accidentally DM you.
That is very good advice. Brendan, this has been great. It's been so great to follow your career with TBR over the couple of years that I've followed you, um, and to just see you kind of build up this thing and have all the success you have. I look forward to continuing to follow you. Why don't you give a shout out to your pages so people can follow you that, if you're not one of the 60,000 people on TikTok that don't follow you already?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I appreciate you having me on. I mean, this is super cool to just be able to kind of, drop the curtain a little bit and talk. And I think that's one of the things that, we don't do enough here. I think it's good that the content, people love the content, but people don't really know like who we are as people. So it's cool to kind of just like get to talk about, how we got started and, all the changes and, our lives. So appreciate you having me on. This was great. And like I said when we started, it's an honor to follow up Dylan Webb.
Yes.
He's quite the character. I'm forever indebted to him for scoring a game-winning goal in our beer league team's first ever win as a team, first franchise history win. Dylan Webb got the GWG 2 years
Love
ago.
it.
So shout out to him for that. And then yeah, TBR Sports everywhere. The booth review. And people don't know it stands for the booth review still. People haven't caught on. They think it's like our initials or something.
I
Yeah.
didn't realize until recently. I think I, like, looked it up, and I'm like, "It's gotta mean something because like, I knew your name was Brendan. I'm like, "It obviously isn't anything along that," but, uh
Everyone thinks it's initials because it started as like I'm Brendan and then Robbie Carpentier, so they're like that's the BR, and they're like who's the
okay.
T? But yeah, I don't remember why we chose the booth review, or like how it came to be. I remember the other name options, like I think we went through like 5 or 6, and I think we landed on the booth review. But I think at this point, and to me, it's like TBR. It's like I don't think I've called it the booth review in like forever. It doesn't even make sense for like what we do now. Like that's a
Yeah,
football term. Um, and we're very much like a hockey based company doing trivia. So it's just like TBR. Doesn't stand for anything.
it's perfect. It's perfect. Well, Brendan, thank you so much. We will definitely do this again sometime, and thanks for coming on.
Hell yeah, anytime.